I was gone for last week, and the emails that piled up was unbelievable.
350 emails.
I still haven't got through them. I dropped my phone in the water and the day before I left, so I couldn't get my emails,
They
and
don't like that.
apparently mine couldn't swim. No.
I think we're ready to get started with Public Works, Solid Waste, and Keep America Beautiful. But before we do, let me mention that tomorrow we have budget hearings beginning at 9 o'clock with the Extension Council. At 10 o'clock, we have Health Access. At 11 o'clock, we have TARC. And then at 1 o'clock, we have the Health Agency, Health Department. At 2 o'clock, Safe Streets, and then at 2:30, CRC Aging and Other Social Services. So I wanted to make sure that the public was aware of that before we got into too deep a dive and all the bridge pictures. So,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon.
Usually I say that in the morning, say good morning, but it's good afternoon, and good afternoon, Betty. What I'll do is, with one presentation, I'll talk about Public Works first, and then I'll get into solid waste, and hopefully I won't be so long-winded that Felicia will have some time to talk about Keep America Beautiful.
Good deal.
Okay, to start things off, I would be remiss if I didn't first mention our mission statement for Public Works. I will say that I didn't reinvent the wheel here. I looked at what Tom Block did last year, and I've modified what he did, brought it up to date. And it's obviously, we want to provide the citizens of Shawnee County with a safe and cost-effective roadway, bridge, and drainage infrastructure system by regularly and expeditiously maintaining or enhancing the county's infrastructure facilities. So hopefully that kind of puts everything in perspective as I move forward with this presentation. My personal vision for Public Works, and I hope Tom agrees, is we want to be an excellent value for the taxpayers of Shawnee County. We want the taxpayers of Shawnee County to think they're getting something for their taxpayer dollar. And based on what I know of the limited history of Public Works, of the limited recent history, we provide excellent value to the taxpayers of Shawnee County. My goal is continuous improvement. Now, this can encompass a number of different things. It can be looking for new ways to do things. It can be looking for little ways to save a little money, using different materials. It's, you know, the old saying, you keep doing things the same way and you expect a different result, it's not going to happen. So that is kind of what I'm getting to right there. I would like to set an example that other governmental entities can aspire to. Now, I'm not talking about, you know, the city of Topeka and their legal department. I'm talking about Public Works, road departments. I hope that Shawnee County sets a good example for other entities. And I hope we're adaptable. There's new things happening all the time. I just hate to hear it when people tell me, well, we've always done it that way. That's not a good answer. Okay, going forward, department challenges. Workforce. I suspect, like the population in general, our workforce is aging in Public Works. And so, you know, we can only do so much. If we have a number of people calling in absent, it affects our ability to get work done. And so workforce capabilities are important. You know, as you get older, you get more injuries. You've got workman's comp to deal with and FMLA. And I'm in no way saying that workman's comp or FMLA are not good things. I'm just saying they affect our ability to get our work done. We've got a tight job market. I think I heard here a few weeks ago, that Shawnee County's down to 3.1% unemployment rate. That affects our ability to hire people. Management succession. Tom here is going to go part-time on us at some point this year, and he's going to officially retire next year at the end of January. Is that correct, Tom?
Correct.
Okay. So at some point here, I need to find a new deputy director, and we need to transition between Tom Flanagan and the new deputy director. So that's a challenge. Equipment upkeep. It costs a lot of money to maintain this vast number of pieces of equipment that we have, which I think numbers around 75 pieces of heavy equipment. I did some calculations, and I came up with approximately $1 million a year. We don't presently budget for that, so that's why I put that as a challenge. Sherwood Sewer System, you're going to be hearing more about that in the coming weeks and coming months. There's not a lot that has taken place concerning the Sherwood Sewer System. There's been a few projects, but not enough. It's getting old enough that Public Works needs to be proactive. We need to treat the sewer system like we treat our roads and bridges. We need to plan for replacements. We don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive when it comes to the Sherwood Sewer System. Ever-increasing KDHE stormwater permit requirements. Every time we renew our KDHE permits, they add to our responsibilities. Right now, I have one compliance officer. So far, he's been able to adapt to the increased responsibilities, but conceivably at some point in the future, I may need a second person, a second compliance person. And finally, material costs. Over the past year, we've seen substantial increases in the price of road oil, concrete. These materials generally increase in cost faster or at a greater rate than the normal inflation rate. So these spikes in material costs can have a tremendous impact in the cost of our projects. So managing or dealing or adapting to these sudden changes in material costs are another challenge. Successes. Road projects. Southeast 29th Street. It's not done, but nevertheless, it was successfully let and is presently on budget. Now, when I say successfully let, there's two things I'm talking about. There is a tremendous amount of work that goes into letting a project. And so, if we let the project, a number of things have occurred, that's a success. Second, we let the project, if it comes in under the engineer's estimate, that is a success. Southeast 45th Street, you're going to hear more about that in a little bit, but we have some concept planning and cost estimates complete, and we have the first phase of that project identified. That's what's on the sheet there that I've given you, each of you, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes. Gary Ormsby Drive, it was successfully let. In fact, when we let it, we saved a significant amount of money from what the engineer estimate was. And work began today, and it is presently, Tom tells me, they're milling asphalt. Completed bridge projects. Remember, bridges have a span length greater than 20 feet, or if they're multi-span bridges, the spacing between the inside face of the most exterior support is 20 feet or greater. Southwest 37th over tributary to Shunga Creek, we just finished that. Button Road, Bailey Road just completed. That's up there north, a little bit north and west of Rossville, isn't it, Tom? Right. And Northwest Dundee Road, and then Southeast 29th over Deer Creek. I know you're thinking, well, that's a road project, but there's a bridge on it. It's nearly, if it's not 100% complete, it is nearly so. Large culverts. These are spans less than 20 feet, but greater than 60 inches in diameter. We installed one of those past 12 months, Southwest 29th over the tributary to Wakarusa River. These are all successes. Sherwood Wastewater Treatment System. We just recently completed the replacement of Pump Station 60. I will be honest with you, it took a little longer than Tom and I hoped, but it's complete, and it was a good learning experience for us as we go forth into the future working on additional Sherwood wastewater projects. Major maintenance, we did our 50 miles of chip seal using lightweight aggregate. And we've done some HMA mill and overlays. We did Southwest 21st Street last year. We did Southwest Auburn Road last year. We did Southwest 33rd. And then recently we completed Southeast 29th from Croco Road to Tecumseh Road. And I want to tell you that I got a lot of good public response from that project. These were all done on Southeast 29th. Bettis did the milling for us, and then Shawnee County Forces did all the rest of the work. Same way with Southeast 45th, which is recently completed. So in all, we have about 6.5 miles of mill and overlay, and these projects look wonderful. They look like a contractor did them. Budget highlights. Administrative. We increased our labor and our benefits by a little over 100,000, 110,000, and I think the major reason for that, Betty, you can probably clarify, is even though Tom has announced he's going to retire at the end of January, I think to be safe, we have budgeted for him still being here through the end of next year. People always change their minds, and hint, 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 but so there's always that possibility that Tom changes his mind, and we want to be somewhat conservative on our budgeting. So that 109,000, most of that accounts for the present deputy director. Now, talk a little bit about what's coming up next here. When I first started, one of the first things Betty said to me is I need to change the way that we budget for our transfers. As you remember, any unused funds from a given calendar year, those funds are transferred to the following year's special bridge, special highway, special machinery. And those funds, when we did our budget, they were basically distributed throughout all the line items. I think, to me, you can look at it as adding a little more butter to your toast on each line item. You add a little more fudge. Well, rather than do that this year, we changed that, and I'm actually budgeting for that transfer. Of course, the 2020 transfer would go into 2021, and my budgeted amount is $1.15 million. And again, at some point in the future, you're hoping at least that amount, preferably more, will transfer into 2021 special highway, special bridge, special machinery. So as I go forward and talk about these highlights, you're going to see some significant negative dollars. But again, it's just the way we've changed how we budget for this future transfer. Betty, would you like to add anything?
Well, yes, I will just add a little bit, because I didn't feel like we were really budgeting our needs. You know, we were just, okay, we would have, $1 million left over, and if we look at last year's budget and we, budget based on that, and that's kind of how we had done it in the past, but that's really not budgeting for our needs. We have a need to have money go into the highway, bridge, and machinery funds. Let's actually look at what our needs are and our needs in all the other places to not increase them. Let's look at what we actually spend and budget it that way. And so we're actually budgeting what we feel like we do need to transfer to these funds. State statute allows us to do that at the end of the year. And so I think it's budgeting for our needs. It's not, the other way was not an accurate budgeting process in my view. So we sat down and talked, and he agreed, and so we've kind of changed the method a little bit.
To me, this is just another example of being more transparent with the public. We're not hiding any money. It's right there. That is the minimum amount that I hope we transfer to 2021 special highway, bridge, and machinery. So if you take labor out of the equation and you take this new line item out of the equation, the remainder of the budget request went down by approximately $45,000. Road maintenance. Labor and benefits, again, went up by approximately $9,000, but you take labor out of it, the remaining budget went down by $574,000. Again, that's a big number, but You're just putting that into that allocation line item up above. Okay, continuing with budget highlights, bridge maintenance, again, there's a $7,500 increase with labor and benefits, but the remainder of the budget goes down by $31,000, the non-labor items. And finally, on equipment, we have labor and benefits go up by $60,000, but the remainder, the non-labor stuff, goes down by $453. So you just remember we had $475, now $453. That's a good part of the $1.15 million budgeted transfer. Okay, so in total, we're having an increase in labor and benefits of approximately $190,000. We got this new allocation for $1.15 million. If you ignore the allocation and just account for all the other non-labor budget requests, you have a decrease of $1.1 million. But you can't ignore the new allocation, so the net change in non-labor budget is an increase of $45,000. So in summary, I'm asking the commission for an additional $45,000. That's a 1.03% increase over 2018 and 2019, but it is a 1.5% decrease from 2017. And again, that is non-labor dollars.
Is it, Betty, is that more like accrual accounting versus cash basis accounting? Or is it a smoothing process, or,
Well,
I'm not sure I
no,
fully
it's
understand.
really still, it's still budgetary accounting.
Okay,
It's just really putting the dollars where we actually expect them to be spent.
okay.
Before, it was, like he said, all of the line items were a little bit on the healthy side, or, with the idea that they wouldn't all be spent and we'd have $1 million plus to transfer to
Carry
these
over.
funds.
Right.
This is really allocating it where it will be spent.
Any questions about that process? No courage. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, Kurt.
Okay, so kind of final, talking about budget. The budget that has been proposed for 2020 continues our ability to perform these mill and overlays that I talked about and to complete these chip seal programs. It maintains a $650,000 federal project local match transfer. We've been doing this for years. And then it creates that new budget item, line item 50502, that budgets for special road, bridge, machinery. And again, to me, it's a transparency thing. Okay, now I would be remiss talking about a budget if I didn't put everything in perspective. So I'm going to talk about some of our other funding sources, and I apologize, this text is getting a little small. But we have the 2017 to 2031 1/2 cent countywide sales tax. It promises us approximately $2.17 million per year to spend on county bridges. But guess what? Carlson Road, the repayment, that takes away $850,000 a year, and we've just made the second of 10 payments. So that leaves approximately $1.3 million a year in our countywide sales tax that we can spend on bridges. There's 2 road projects in the countywide sales tax program. Northwest 46th Street from Button Road to Rochester Road. And that project is in our 5-year plan, and I will talk a little bit more about that when I get to the 5-year plan. And then the road project, a large, very large road project that is not in the 5-year plan because it's way out towards the end of the sales tax program, is Northwest Rochester Road from US 24 to Northwest 50th Street. Part of that project will be within the city limits. Federal fund transfers, $1.18 million in 16, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. That concerns me. Now, 2018 would have been larger than our 2019 transfer, but back in 2018, we were dealing with a 75-25% transfer rate. We're back to 90-10 this year. But again, really what I want to highlight about these transfers is the continuing decrease in the amount of dollars that KDOT is providing through the federal funds.
Are these a matching grant, or the funds are?
Well, we have to, and I'll let Tom probably talk about that in detail. We have to spend an equivalent amount of money, or we have to spend money on a project before we can get this money.
Okay.
And so what we do is we get this allocation. Tom takes up all the projects that we've done recently. He comes up with monies that we haven't been reimbursed for with KDOT. He submits that, and then we end up with that money. Is that essentially what happens?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
If I may.
Sure.
On the half-cent countywide sales tax, I think the two road projects were specifically identified in the interlocal agreement.
Yes.
But as far as bridges, it just said county bridges.
Correct.
So
That's
we
why.
identify and prioritize that spending.
That's right, and that's what I'll talk about when I talk about the 5-year plan.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. Only the two road projects were specifically identified.
Okay, thank you.
And then obviously, going back to special bridge, machinery, and road, with the fund accounts in parentheses, you take the prior year unused general fund transfer, and you transfer that to, again, special bridge, special road, special machinery. In 2019, that transfer was $1.68 million. Okay?
I
So
will
that,
make a comment here.
yes, ma'am.
Now, although he's allocated the 1.12, whatever, if he ends up with more than that at the end of the year, then he will be allowed to transfer whatever is available to transfer, up to 25% of his budget.
Okay.
So he is budgeting the 1.1 million. If it ends up to be more than that will be transferred at the end of the year to zero his budget out, basically.
Okay, 5-year CIP highlights. We made 20 total submissions. That's a lot. I think it was the most for the county. 12 culvert replacements, 13 bridge replacements, 5 road projects, and 10 equipment items. Actually, the pieces of equipment are much more than 10 pieces of equipment, but I think to make it manageable, each piece of equipment, each unique piece of equipment was handled as a submission. So like for a dump truck, that submission may cover multiple years in the 5-year program. Okay. Culvert replacements. Let me just say, I'm not going to dwell much on culvert replacements because for a lack of time, I'm going to talk a little more about bridges. But our primary funding source for culvert replacements is special bridge. That doesn't mean we won't use other funding source. That is just the traditional primary funding source, special bridge. That's why it's so important to manage your funds, because then that maximizes the funds that go into the next year's special bridge account. Generally, culverts have a 50-year useful life. Bridge replacements. Primary funding source, the half-cent sales tax. Again, there are exceptions, but that's it, generally. 75-year useful life. Now, I'm going to give you an example of something. We're presently doing Southeast 29th Street. There's a bridge on it. Technically, we can use half-cent sales tax bridge funds as part of that Southeast 29th Street project because there's a bridge on that project. So I just want to make that clear. You may use on Southeast 29th, we could have used a number of different funding sources, including the half-cent sales tax money on bridges, because that is a bridge. Even though it's a part of a bigger road project, we can do that. Okay, now on the bridges. I didn't have time to talk about all the bridges. So what I've done is I've given you this handout that kind of summarizes where the bridges fall. Again, 13 bridges, where they fall throughout the 5-year program. And then I have provided, actually, Tom collected all these for me, but Public Works has provided pictures and just basic data so that you have an idea of where we think it's most prudent to spend our funds on bridge replacements. 9 bridges are structurally deficient of the 13. That means they can't carry federal legal loads. 4 bridges are functionally obsolete. That means the existing bridge geometrics is substandard, or the approaches are narrow. The bridge is narrow. The bridge doesn't have a bridge rail that comes up to a reasonable standard. So that gives you an idea. Now, Tom, I've got a question for you. Did we go down the 2018 bridge inspection report and we're just going down the list? Is that kind of what we've done?
Basically, that's correct.
Okay. That gives you an idea of where we come up with the 13 bridges. We come up with those that are in the worst shape, or we think because of structurally deficient or functionally obsolete, they need to be replaced. Road projects. Multiple funding sources, as I just talked about. Even if you have a bridge on it, that just in itself, we can use funding sources, 2 different funding sources. 30-year useful life. You might say, well, how come they have a substantially less useful life than a bridge does? Because generally on road projects, there are environmental issues or just development issues that make a road project obsolete before a bridge is obsolete. We might tear out a road in 15 or 20 years if there is sudden tremendous amount of development and the existing road can no longer handle what we built. So I think 30 years, that explains the 30-year useful life. And here's are the things that we're going to work on for the next 5 years. We have a traffic signal upgrade that we want to do at the intersection of South Topeka Boulevard and University Boulevard. Southeast 45th Street, we've got a pretty good segment of Southeast 45th, and because of funding issues, cash flow, we'd like to split that into 3 separate projects. The first and probably the most important segment, which I have provided you this sheet, is the Southeast Barrington Road, essentially West Edge Road to Southeast East Edge Road. Now, by splitting 45th Street into these 3 projects, it does 3 things that I can think of that are important. Number 1, it completes the roundabout at Barrington/West Edge, so when we complete or we do the other segments of the project, we can use this roundabout to help us with traffic control. It attacks 2 bridges on this project, actually 3 bridges now, because we have a bridge you can see in yellow. We have a bridge just west of the roundabout, and then we have a bridge just west, a large bridge just west of East Edge Road that will be replaced as part of this project. As you know, bridges are more expensive than roads, so that will drive up the cost of this segment of the project. And then possibly, depending on what we find out, we may do some work on the bridge just north of the roundabout on West Edge Road. It's not highlighted here. There is still a possibility that we may address that as part of our 45th Street project. Now, another thing I want to talk about this project, it does 2 things, or it does one very important thing. It takes the problem that Parks and Rec is having with their trail, the grade issue, and it is including it in our project. So we're solving not only a road project, but we're solving Parks and Rec's trail issue at the same time. Public Works will be coming to you in the coming months and provide more information about that project and how we would like to fund it. And then finally, the half-cent sales tax project, Northwest 46 from Button Road to Rochester. That will be out there. I don't think construction is included in our 5-year plan, but I think some portions of the project are included. Equipment, we $600,000 to $650,000 per year we want to spend on equipment. If you recall, I talked about $1 million that would be ideally needed for our equipment purchases, replacements. We can live with the 600 to 650 for now. The primary funding sources for those is approximately one half comes from capital outlay fund, and I wish to make it clear that that's the case because I know we compete with other departments for that money, and one half comes from, or approximately one half comes from special machinery fund. And usually that equipment has a 10 to 15-year replacement cycle. We have some that 20 years, and we have one piece of equipment that's up to 30, but that's generally where we're at. Questions for Public Works?
Questions? Commissioner Cook?
The 45th California to Barrington, East Edge, you've got that slated for 4 years, 2021, 22, 23, and 24. So 2020 is going to be just the primary design?
Yeah, we're going to be, although some of the design has already been completed, we've changed it because now we split it into 3 projects. So
Right.
the design has to be kind of tweaked for that. Anything you want to add, Tom?
No, you're correct. We've already are into design. In 2020, we'll be purchasing right away, moving utilities. 2021 will go to construction.
Okay. On the part that encompasses the trail, we put off the expansion or renovating the trail along 45th Street to roll it into this project. So would we have any Parks and Rec money that we had set aside for 45th Street to come into this?
Not to be preemptive, but Betty and I and Tom were working with Parks and Rec. We were hoping to get a $200,000 donation to the project.
Donation allocation?
Parks
Yeah.
and Rec has agreed to 200,000 from their building maintenance fund.
Because not only does it solve their problem with the grades on the trail there in the vicinity of Southeast 45th, it saves Parks and Rec significant amounts of money over what they would have spent if they would have done this project themselves.
The significant part of the lake trail is from East Edge to West Edge Road, but with us going from California to East Edge, are you going to try and do a trail expansion down 45th Street? We had set aside the space when we were doing 45th earlier.
All segments will have the multi-use path on it.
It will tie the MOPAC trail that the city's worked on down to 45th, and we brought that trail along the north side of 45th from Topeka to California. We'll extend from California to Barrington Road to tie into the lake trail.
Okay. All right.
Does this 45th Street, is it all going to be curb and guttered all along there?
Yeah.
And then it will have a,
Protection.
yeah, and then you have storm drains under that as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
And you said some protection there between the trail? some
It
kind of-
depends on how far the trail will be off the back of the curb, but if necessary, we may have to provide some protection.
There's a pretty good stretch there where it
Yeah.
looks like it's right behind the curb.
Yeah,
It's very close.
yeah. Then we'll have protection.
All right.
And you think your total cost is going to be about $4.5 million?
Yeah. Construction or total project
Total
cost?
project cost?
Yeah. That's our best guess at this time.
Will this street be wider too then?
It'll be 3 lanes,
3 lanes?
yes,
The chicken lane in the center?
right. Going into a single lane roundabout at Barrington Road.
Okay.
Other questions?
Your funding sources, on the capital outlay, you had indicated unfunded, but on our slide, it says multiple funding.
That was just in general, just to say that road projects in general generally have multiple funding sources. That wasn't intended to apply to any one specific project.
Okay.
Is this project completely unfunded? I mean, you don't have any idea of sources for this project?
How much money do we have presently, Tom, that we could actually, we've got allocated to
I've
that
got right
project
now $1.2 million in that account.
Okay.
right now?
And then I will be moving monies from the operating budget, from special highway, Shawnee County half-cent bridge sales tax, federal exchange program, Parks and Recreation. Those are the other sources of funding that we'll just keep plugging money into it until we get to the amount we need.
Okay.
Well, that still leaves you about 3 million short.
Well, not quite,
No, not,
I'm sitting about, if I add these two together right now, I'm sitting about $3.7 million.
Okay.
And I should be able to refine that budget for that project here within the next 60 days, so we'll be coming back to you with that budget. So we'll know more specifics. I'm pushing the consultant right now to give me those numbers.
But that would not be, this would be separate from our half-cent sales tax, which we do the bridges and culverts on, that we've been doing the other identified road projects.
Are there any half-cent sales tax money, for
Yeah.
the bridges, don't we have some?
Yeah, the bridges.
Mhm.
The bridges will be using half-cent sales tax money.
Okay.
I will also make a comment that I think this is a very good example of departments working together. I think by, them working with Parks and Rec, we are gonna kill the bird, kill two birds with one stone, I
Correct.
guess you'd say. But, it's going to cost Parks and Rec a lot less than it would cost them when they had an estimate of this project by itself.
Yes,
Plus, it will be longer.
yes.
And it'll be more than just that one little strip, it will be a longer one. So I really think it was a good collaborative effort between the two departments to try to work this out for the best for the county and the taxpayers.
Other? Yeah, Commissioner.
You've got Northwest 46th Street in 24 and 23, as opposed to, and then this 45th Street will be Northwest 46 and 24 and 23, but Southeast 45th going first. Is that right?
Well, say that again. I know 45th Street's going to be, it's already working right now. It'll be into construction in 2021.
Okay.
Now, which one were you talking about?
Northwest 46 to Bunton Road to
46.
Rochester Road.
That's the half-cent sales tax.
That would be the half-cent road sales tax project, which specifically was identified in the ballot question to
But,
do that.
but you've got that one slated for 23 and 24.
Correct, that's when our money would be coming available for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we hope to get as much of Southeast 45th Street done prior to that as we can.
And then finally, without upsetting the apple cart, have we heard anything else on Northwest Topeka Boulevard around the schools? Seaman?
We,
First been in contact with,
yeah, we've got a TEEP study with KDOT. They are working on a study as we speak. They hope to have a result for us at some point this fall. And from there, we'll have a better idea of what's going to be required on Northwest Topeka Boulevard. Now, remember, I had only committed the county on design and administration. The administration will cost the county nothing because anything spent on the actual construction, utilities, right-of-way will be reimbursed to the county from the school district.
Just in the same manner that Washburn Rural did when we worked on
Correct.
Southeast.
you gotta really be careful with those two projects. One, it's apples and oranges.
Okay.
That was a maintenance project that we did in-house with our forces. It was basically, we had shoulder width, we had, all we had to do was basically widen the shoulders. This one is I consider this as a capital project.
Maybe-
You got major utilities you gotta move, and it's more of a significant construction project.
Maybe Kevin was referring to the grade school there off of Nottingham.
Well, that would be Farley.
Right,
Elementary.
Farley,
Now, yeah. but
We
They
didn't-
basically participated in that.
right. But so wouldn't Topeka Boulevard be similar to what was done for Farley?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
So a precedent has been established.
All right, that's all I've got right now.
Okay.
You have a number of vacant positions right now.
The only concern, the vacancies concerns that I have right now, and they're recently developed, those are road maintenance people. We have 5 vacancies right now among the 4 districts. If you'd asked me 3 months ago, we'd have had 0 vacancies. But we have 5 vacancies, and again, I talked about the 3.1% unemployment rate is extremely difficult. There's a lot of competition out there for people, and it's been difficult to fill those positions.
That's everybody.
Yeah, I understand we've got 3,000 job openings in Topeka without
Yeah.
people to fill those jobs at this
Yeah.
point.
Go ahead.
Other questions, commissioners? I just want to say, I thought the presentation was very comprehensive and very well done. I know that Public Works and Parks and Rec are probably the most admired departments that we have in Shawnee County. And so I thought the presentation was really good. And discussion of challenges, I thought was very appropriate. We do have significant challenges. And the Sherwood Sewer District is one that's is going to be an eye-opener, but it has to be addressed.
Absolutely.
Has to be addressed. I particularly like not only the presentation of challenges, but the presentation of successes that we've had in Public Works. Thank you for that. And on a personal note to Tom Flanagan, I hope he will stay here as long as possible. Tom Flanagan leaving will not only be a loss to Public Works, but it will be a loss to Shawnee County as a whole.
I agree.
So, next item, please.
Solid Waste Department. Again, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our mission statement to kind of put everything in perspective. Basically, I want Shawnee County Solid Waste Department, we want to provide the most service-oriented, cost-effective, and efficient collection of refuse, recyclables, and hazardous waste materials in Shawnee County. In so doing, the department strives to protect the health, well-being, and quality of life of the public. In other words, if you have neighborhoods that don't have trash all over, blowing all over the neighborhood, it's picked up on a regular basis, the quality of life improves. My vision. I want to be the preferred service provider for the residents of Shawnee County. It's simple. And you'll see as I go forward in this presentation that we are essentially accomplishing that. What's important is customer service. Again, that value. I like to think that the people that use Solid Waste Department as their collection provider feel like they get great value. I want to think that our people are competent at what they're doing. I would like to think that we're efficient at what we're doing. We're courteous and respectful. Courteous and respectful obviously carries back to customer service, but then it also goes beyond customer service. So that is kind of my vision for the Solid Waste Department. Challenges. Same workforce sustainability. It's the same, whether you're Public Works or Solid Waste. We're talking about an older workforce. We're talking about ability for people to show up for work. We have a tight job market, 3.1% unemployment in Shawnee County. Management succession. Beginning August 5th, we have a new director that's coming on board. So there'll be hopefully a short transitional period. I will do everything in my power to help the transition be smooth. Solid waste equipment, recycling equipment. There is probably no equipment used in Shawnee County that is more abused. I don't say abused in a negative way. I mean abused just by the natural work that they do. They work day in, day out, 5 days a week. The equipment is utilized 5 days a week, regardless of the weather. tremendous amount of stop and start. That equipment is under a tremendous amount of stress. And so even though there's less pieces of equipment in solid waste than there is in public works, we need to replace that equipment more often. And so our needs are up to $1.3 million a year. But unlike public works, we are fully budgeting for that replacement cost. But it's still a challenge, because if there's a need that we didn't anticipate, we have to balance, we have to trade. So we have to always be aware of something that we don't anticipate. Staffing, you talked about public works, and we were short on the road maintenance people. In solid waste, we're short mechanics, we're short drivers right now. On the mechanics side, we've recently taken care of that, and I think it is bearing fruit, but we have a shortage of drivers from time to time. Department challenges continue. This is probably, in my mind, the number one ongoing challenge that we're going to have to deal with in the next 5 years. China is no longer just taking anything that we throw at them. They are being more selective. And what that has done is it's just driven the cost of these recyclable commodities to very low values. Glass, for example, is presently not financially feasible to recycle. We are still collecting it, but it is not feasible to recycle. Contamination is a big issue. We get, it's mainly on the recycle side. If you get contamination, people throw in a pizza box with food in it, that's contamination. And I think contamination to me is so tied to education that going forward, talking with the future director, education is going to be one of my priorities for that individual. And the future, cost and sustainability, especially as it relates to recycling. That applies to just refuse also, because you're constantly dealing with new regulations. But I think the future, we're going to have some real questions on costs and the sustainability of some of our recycle programs. Public drop-off sites. It's a great idea, but for the most part, they collect trash, unfortunately. So a lot of people, a lot of businesses, they don't like a drop-off site on their property because it's a maintenance nightmare. We have drop-off facilities for recycling. Let's say, as an example though, you drink beer or you drink soda. Comes in an aluminum can. You collect your aluminum cans. A lot of people have a dedicated can that they throw their aluminum cans in, but it's lined with a plastic bag. So they take the plastic bag out of their trash can, they tie it up, and they go to one of these public collection sites, and they throw that whole plastic bag in that collection dumpster. All of those aluminum cans in that plastic bag are no longer recyclable. The MRF is not set up to handle plastic bags. That's an important thing. It's all about contamination and finding suitable locations. Again, if it turns into a maintenance nightmare, these landowners, these businesses, they don't want to deal with it. Successes. I am pleased to announce that the number of customers in Shawnee County continues to climb. We're up to almost 45, well, we're over 45,700 customers. A year ago, when Tom did this presentation, we were at a little over 44,000, and that represented at that time 75% of Shawnee County's population. We hit a low point in September of 2013, not long after we initiated curbside recycling, of a little less than 41,000 customers. So I think you can see between September 2013 and July of 2019, we've built a tremendous number of customers. Not only have we built back from what we had before we started the recycling program, but we're beyond that. So I think that's a tremendous success. Household hazardous waste. As of the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, that's the state fiscal year, we've had almost 7,300 customers. 2018, 7,000, 2017, 6,500, 2016, 5,700, 2013, 3,200. There's been a tremendous increase in the number of people utilizing the household hazardous waste facility. In the last 12 months, we've started e-waste recycling, and we hope to expand that. If I can get some kind of IT in place where we can handle billing, that's a direct bill to the vendor, we can recycle CRTs. And for the 7th straight year, KDHE inspections have yielded no violations out at the hazardous waste facility. Budget highlights. First of all, I want to talk about these fund accounts. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on them, but it gives you an idea of how solid waste budget is broken down. And the reason I wanted you to kind of know that is because, like Public Works, we're going to change the way we budget for solid waste. Traditionally, solid waste, you budgeted your expenses in 310, and that covered everything in 311 through 316, and then actual expenses were actually tied to these funds 311 through 316. I think you can imagine if you have one large budgeted amount in one fund and you have actual expenses in all these other funds, it made it virtually impossible to track progress throughout the calendar year. So beginning with the 2020 budget, this is something, again, Betty talked to me about not long after I started. 310 is not going to be used, and we're going to start budgeting for expenses directly in 311 through 316. Betty, do you want to add anything?
No,
Okay.
So I think you covered.
Okay. Okay. So for 2020, I have projected both a revenue and expenses of approximately $13.4 million. That represents an increase for labor and benefits of approximately $240,000, a non-labor decrease of $4,000, so a net increase in our total operating budget of approximately $234,000. And then below there, I have both the 2019 projected revenue and the projected expenses as a basis of comparison. And the increase of $234,000 is in relation to the 2019 projected expenses. The actual 2018 actual expenses was $12.635 million, and this is just provided to give you perspective. Final. This budget has some significant projected expenses, contractual services. This covers everything from our contract with waste management all the way down to the contracts that we have for totes or for steel containers, for our Traxxas GPS system. Motor vehicles, $1.3 million. As I said before, we need that, and we have been budgeting for it. I did not increase it this year. We budgeted the same amount last year. Diesel fuel, I project that we're going to spend over $700,000 on diesel fuel. Summary, solid waste department remains financially stable, and it looks like we have 80% of the market share in Shawnee County. With that, I'll take questions.
How do we compare with some of the other private haulers in our price for?
We are the lowest fees. The only one I think that comes close is Ditch. I think they may be competitive on certain, if you sign up for, maybe enough months in advance, they are probably competitive on price. But other than Ditch, I don't think anyone is competitive, price-wise.
Nothing? Okay.
That puts me at an end. I appreciate your time, your interest, and with that,
Okay.
Alicia takes over.
Again, well done presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Very, very comprehensive and well done. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Keep America beautiful. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Felicia McKee. I'm the Executive Director for Keep America Beautiful, Topeka, Shawnee County. Our mission is to create programs and events to promote and encourage volunteerism in our core focus areas of litter reduction, recycling, and beautification. We also provide educational programs to our youth and our citizens. Our local KAB affiliate has been the recipient of more than 60 national awards. During my tenure as Executive Director, some of the national awards for the affiliate in our population category were first place 2007, 2009, and 2010, and second place in 2006 and 2013. I've included in your packets a copy of our end-of-year income and expense statement for 2018. I've also enclosed a copy of our proposed budget for 2020 and the summary for our 2018-2019 annual fiscal year report, and that just ended the end of June. This new budget reflects, again, a requested increase in the amount of just under $15,000. If the county does not increase our funding, this affiliate will dissolve in approximately 3 years. As you can see in looking at our end-of-year income and expense statement, we operate on a minimal budget. Last year, we received a large grant from Marlboro, which was a one-time grant, one from Pepsi, which came to an end, and some miscellaneous memorial grants. A final payment from the city also happened last year. We still fell behind approximately $900. Without those grants, we would have fallen behind fiscally more than $12,000 for the year. Our biggest expense is my salary. I operate as an independent contractor without any benefits in the form of insurance or retirement, and I pay the employer's portion of Social Security an additional 7% cost to me. I found from working with other community improvement groups that without a paid staff person, the events and contributions are minimal. It is critical that KAB have a paid staff person. The total cost benefit in the summary report reflects all benefits and contributions by our affiliate, volunteers, and supporting partners. I feel that this is properly demonstrating the level of commitment by our citizens, partner civic groups, and partner businesses in Shawnee County. It's important that we report on all the activities that fit within our mission of cleaning up litter, beautification events, and recycling efforts as we benefit from National KAB in the form of grants that we receive and also in-kind donations like trash bags and bottled water. To have the complete picture of KAB contributions to our community and to compare progress from one year to the other, we have offered a consistent report showing as much information as we can. Our volunteers and partners are proud of their contributions to KAB and our community. We're giving them credit, and by giving them the credit they deserve, we honor and recognize that their efforts are important to KAB and the community. I'll be happy to go over any questions on our annual worksheet in detail. If you do have any questions, it's about 40 pages. This year, I've also included in your packets a few of our program highlights. Some of our newest programs, we had a lot of fun with World Naked Gardening Day, where volunteers planted the naked flower beds with annuals after the tulips were lifted at Ted Inslee Gardens. We received a grant of 18,000 9-volt batteries for Shawnee County citizens to use in smoke alarms and weather radios. They were used to encourage people to recycle batteries at our Shawnee County hazardous waste facility with our new battery exchange program. We brought back the Butt Brigade and have received a small grant to fight cigarette litter this year. We were honored this year by a visit of Kimberly Meinhardt, Mrs. USA Universal, kicking off our extreme team. This is where volunteers go out into areas of extreme litter and hold cleanups. While we constantly hold litter cleanups and beautification projects, some of the annual highlights include we continue to distribute our recycling directory to citizens of Shawnee County. Our annual Earth Day celebration includes free landfill and free yard waste collections. The value of this event this year was $26,000. We had 228 participants in that event. Get Down and Get Dirty, our huge community-wide litter cleanup in April in celebration of Earth Day. We had just over 2,200 volunteers at a value of $288,172. KAB trash troopers, these are the folks that go out and pick up litter as they walk, had an annual value of $370,000. Storm troopers, these are the folks that have agreed to help clean out storm drains in their neighborhoods, and that value is $11,000. We have a program called Take 10 on Wanamaker Road, our busiest corridor. They send their employees out for 10 minutes each day, and that has a value of $82,000. Partner efforts are groups where we sometimes provide supplies, we promote their event, we recruit volunteer participation, or we provide other resources. Many of our volunteers and business partners were referred to us our volunteers were referred to these partner groups. We also have extensive partner support like media coverage and in-kind donations. Some of these include the Master Gardener beautification efforts, ShareFest, which is a group of local churches that hold beautification projects. The local schools recycle, and KAB and Shawnee County Solid Waste representatives have worked countless hours to ensure that the schools we continue their education and that they continue to recycle. We consistently provide volunteers to work with Parks and Recreation, and we refer our private sector partners to Parks and Rec. We, as part of the Friends of Ted Inslee Gardens Board and the Friends of Ward Mead, we provide much support and many volunteers to these entities. KAB is a unique organization. We provide community improvement. No other county-funded organization provides this type of service to our community. If you look at our annual fiscal report with contributions by the county of $45,000, our value of in-kind services and benefits returned to this community this year was just over $15 million. For every public dollar invested in KAB, this community receives back $325 in benefits. This is the highest return in the history of our local KAB affiliate. We respectfully request that Shawnee County consider our full funding request, which includes an increase to fill the gap left by the omission of city funding. Contributions by KAB and our volunteers is valuable, and we hope that you will secure the future of our organization. Thank you so much for your continued support for the past 40 years, and we hope that you will continue in the future. Any questions?
Questions for Felicia?
Felicia, are you just counting on the city cutting you completely?
Yes. I worked nearly full-time for an entire year trying to cooperate and adjust and answer their needs on their budgetary request and information. And they just, frankly, didn't see the value of what we do. It just baffles me. But the current administration that is there didn't see a clean community, a beautiful community as a priority.
Well, I don't think that it's just Keep America Beautiful. I think it's all social services, mental health, and across the board. That's what we're hearing from all of our partners.
Yeah.
So,
But didn't they send back the priorities for city social service funding back? I mean, they were unhappy with what came from the committee, I think. Is that not correct? I'm trying to think.
action last Tuesday.
In the process, I know we had a hearing where we were able to debate what they had decided, and they stood by their decision. Again, I didn't understand when they indicated verbally that they were in support of KAB, how they could remove 100% of our funding. And it was a terrible time for myself personally and my family. And I just recognize the fact that if $14 million return on their few dollars was not enough, I couldn't do enough. My volunteers and I can't do enough to please them. And I didn't want to continue knocking at the door when I knew that it was a futile effort.
Well, I think
So.
as Commissioner Cook pointed out, the city is just AWOL.
Yeah.
They are just AWOL, disgustingly so. Commissioner Rippon?
Well, I agree. You know, we used to provide them with trash bags to what was the amount of the trash bag? What was the dollar amount?
I think it was around $12,000 a year, and they would come and take trailers of our trash bags, and we provided, I think, about 90,000 trash bags to them a year, and the comment by the committee was, we'll buy our own trash bags. And I thought, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And they are provided to us free of charge. They're donated by GLAD.
I just think they totally neglecting the value of having a clean community. They all want a clean community, but they aren't willing to put one dime towards it, and I find that.
We just completed our annual Community Appearance Index a couple weeks ago, and I tell you what, this community looks pretty good. We have a few troubled areas that we're going to address with our extreme team, but I've been to Kansas City numerous times just recently, and there is no comparison. That community is really, really looking bad compared to Topeka and Shawnee County.
We have now taken on the stampede, which creates a lot of litter.
Yes.
And
That's true.
I see in the future maybe we'll need help for that.
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys have provided us with so many volunteers for things like Apple Festival and other events that we have in Parks and Rec, and you are the go-to person for volunteers, and we certainly appreciate
I did
that.
get on a lot of email lists.
That's good. And thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, thank you, Felicia.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Kurt, for appearing today. And that does it for our first day of budget hearings. Tune in tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, and I'm looking forward to working with Bill.
You bet.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not really sure what's on there, it was 20 years worth of stuff.